Admiral Ben Carter was reviewing fleet reports when the priority alert flashed across his screen. Emergency signals from Earth's deep space monitoring stations were all saying the same thing. An unknown fleet had entered the outer solar system and was broadcasting on all frequencies. "Get me President Walsh immediately," Ben ordered his aide. Within minutes, he was connected to the White House Situation Room where President Tony Walsh was already meeting with his top advisors. "What do we know, Admiral?" the president asked. "A fleet of 12 ships, design unknown, has positioned itself just beyond Pluto's orbit. They're not Kalari vessels. The ships are much larger and have a completely different design. They're broadcasting a message on repeat." Colonel Amy Brooks, head of military intelligence, leaned forward. "We've been analyzing the transmission. It's in perfect English, which means they've been studying us for some time." "Play it," President Walsh ordered. The message was cold and mechanical, delivered by a voice that sounded almost human but had an underlying hiss that made everyone in the room uncomfortable. "People of Earth, I am Fleet Commander Zekvar of the Galactic Council. You have been observed forming an alliance with the criminal species known as the Kalari. This alliance is forbidden under Council law. You will surrender all Kalari individuals and technology to Council forces within 7 of your days, or your world will be cleansed of all life. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." Silence filled the room. Finally, President Walsh spoke. How many ships could they bring against us? Colonel Brooks opened her tablet. "Based on what the Kalari have told us, the Council controls hundreds of worlds. Their core fleet alone has over 3,000 warships. Each one is larger and more advanced than anything we've ever built." "What about our defenses?" the president asked. Admiral Carter shook his head. "We have 47 ships that could be called warships, and most of those are really just converted exploration vessels. Our orbital defense platforms are still under construction. Against a Council fleet, we wouldn't last a day." "Then we surrender." "The Kalari and save Earth," suggested General Clark Hayes, the Secretary of Defense. "Absolutely not," came a voice from the back of the room. Captain Jake Morrison had just arrived from the spaceport. "Mr. President, I've spent months with the Kalari. They're good people who have done nothing wrong except refuse to bow to tyrants. If we hand them over, we'll be accomplices to murder." "Captain, Morrison is right," agreed Dr. Lisa Ford, who had come with him. "The Kalari have shared everything with us. Their technology, their knowledge, their friendship. Betraying them would destroy everything we claim to stand for as human beings." President Walsh rubbed his temples. "But if we refuse, they'll destroy Earth. We're talking about the lives of 8 billion people." "Sir," Colonel Brooks interrupted, "we're getting more intelligence from our deep space sensors. The Council ships aren't just sitting there. They're scanning our entire solar system. They're cataloging our defenses, our population centers, everything." Captain Morrison stepped closer to the table. "Mr. President, I've seen what the Council does to worlds that oppose them. The Kalari showed me records from their archives. They don't just conquer planets, they wipe out entire civilizations. Even if we give them the Kalari, they'll be back. They'll demand tribute, slaves, resources. This ultimatum isn't just about the Kalari. It's about whether humanity will be free or enslaved." Dr. Ford nodded. "The Kalari warned us this would happen. They said the Council sees any independent species as a threat. We're already on their list just for being human." Admiral Carter pulled up a holographic display of the solar system. "The Council ships have spread out in a defensive formation. They're not planning to leave after 7 days, regardless of what we decide. This is an invasion force." "What are our options?" President Walsh asked. "We can fight and probably lose," General Hayes said grimly. "We can surrender the Kalari and hope the Council leaves us alone, which they probably won't. Or we can try to evacuate as many people as possible and scatter to the stars. There's a fourth option," Captain Morrison said quietly. "We can win." Everyone turned to look at him. "Captain, they have thousands of ships," Admiral Carter said, "but they don't know how humans fight. Every species the Council has conquered fought the same way. Big fleets meeting in open space, following ancient traditions of warfare. Humans don't fight like that. We adapt. We improvise. We use every dirty trick we can think of." Dr. Ford stepped forward. "The Kalari technology we've been studying could give us an edge. Their shield harmonics, their phase displacement engines. We've barely scratched the surface of what's possible." Colonel Brooks was typing rapidly on her tablet. "I'm getting reports from around the world. The Kalari survivors from other attacks have been sharing more advanced technology with our scientists. Weapons technology. They say it's time to stop running and start fighting back." President Walsh stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of Washington, D.C., millions of people going about their lives, unaware that their world was about to change forever. "How long do we have to prepare?" he asked. 6 days, Admiral Carter replied. "But, sir, even with Kalari technology, building a fleet that could stand against the Council would take years." "Then we don't build a fleet," Captain Morrison said. "We build something they've never seen before, something that can hit them where they don't expect it." Over the next hour, the room filled with military leaders, scientists, and engineers. Dr. Kate Miller, Earth's top physicist, joined the meeting by video link from the Lunar Research Station. Ambassador Vestan appeared on screen from the Kalari ship hidden behind Mars. "The Council will not negotiate," Vestal said sadly. "They have made the same demands to a dozen species in the past century. Those who surrendered what was demanded found that the Council always demanded more until there was nothing left to give." "What about the other species in the galaxy?" President Walsh asked. "Surely some of them would help us." "Most are too afraid," Vestal replied. "The Council rules through terror, but there are some who have been waiting for someone to stand up to them. If Earth shows that the Council can be fought, others might find the courage to join us." Dr. Ray Miller's voice came through the speakers. "I've been working with the Kalari scientists up here. We think we can modify our nuclear weapons using their phase technology. A single warhead could punch through their shields and destroy a ship." "How many warheads can we modify in 6 days?" Admiral Carter asked. "Maybe 50. Not enough to stop. A full invasion, but enough to make them pay for coming here." President Walsh turned back to the group. "I want options, people. Military options, diplomatic options, everything. We have 6 days to figure out how to save humanity without sacrificing our souls." As the meeting broke up, Captain Morrison caught the president's arm. "Sir, there's something else. The Kalari have been hiding other human colonies that escaped Earth decades ago. Small groups that left during the early space program. If we can contact them, we might have more allies than we think." President Walsh nodded grimly. "Then find them, Captain. Find them, and tell them that Earth is calling all humans home. It's time to show the galaxy what our species is really capable of." Outside the White House, the night sky looked peaceful and normal. But somewhere beyond the distant planets, an alien fleet waited with weapons that could burn worlds. The clock was ticking, and humanity's first real test as a spacefaring species was about to begin. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, staring at the alien ship that had just dropped out of hyperspace. After 3 days of tense waiting, humanity was about to make first contact with another intelligent species. The alien vessel was beautiful, with smooth curves and a silver hull that seemed to shimmer in the starlight. "Captain, they're sending us a transmission," said Communications Officer Kelly Adams. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the excitement underneath. "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main display flickered, and then an alien face appeared. The being had large golden eyes and pale blue skin. Its features were gentle, almost elf-like. When it spoke, the words came through the translation software that Earth's scientists had been working on for months. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Vextal of the Kalari people. We come in peace and friendship." Jake stepped forward. "Welcome, Vextal. I am Captain Jake Morrison. We are honored to meet you." Over the next few hours, the two ships docked together. Jake led a small team aboard the Kalari vessel, including Dr. Lisa Ford, Earth's best expert on alien life. The Kalari ship was unlike anything humans had ever seen. The walls seemed to glow with soft light, and the air smelled like flowers after rain. Vextal was waiting for them in what appeared to be a meeting room. He was tall and thin, wearing robes that changed color as he moved. With him were 3 other Kalari, each one looking curious but friendly. "Your ship is amazing," Dr. Ford said, her eyes wide with wonder. "How do you make the walls glow like that?" Vextal smiled, an expression that looked surprisingly human. "We grow our ships from living crystal. They respond to our thoughts and emotions. But please, tell us about your world. We have watched Earth from far away and are fascinated by your people." The meeting lasted for hours. The Kalari explained that they were traders and scholars who traveled between the stars, sharing knowledge and art. They had been watching Earth for several years, waiting for humans to develop space travel. They were impressed by human creativity and the way people from different cultures could work together. "We have much to offer each other," Vextal said. "We can share our technology for faster-than-light travel and energy production. In return, we would love to learn about your music, your stories, and your art." Dr. Ford leaned forward. "What about other alien species? Are there many others out there?" Vextal's expression grew serious. "Yes, there are many. Most are peaceful, like us. But there is also the Galactic Council. They rule most of known space. Through fear and force, they believe that all species must bow to their will or be destroyed." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Have they threatened you?" "We refuse to join them," Vextal explained. "The Kalari believe in freedom and peace. We trade with many worlds, but we bow to no one. This makes us rebels in their eyes." "Are they dangerous?" Jake asked. "Very dangerous. Their fleets are vast, and they have destroyed entire civilizations that opposed them. But they have not found our homeworld yet. We are careful to keep it hidden." Over the following weeks, the USS Liberty accompanied the Kalari ship to their hidden base near the edge of the solar system. More Kalari ships arrived, and soon there was a small fleet of alien vessels working alongside human ships. The exchange of knowledge began immediately. The Kalari taught humans how to build faster engines and better energy shields. They showed Earth scientists how to create materials that were stronger than anything humans had ever made. In return, humans shared their music, their books, and their movies. The Kalari were amazed by human storytelling and the way people could create such beautiful art. Dr. Ford worked closely with Kalari scientists, learning about their biology and technology. She discovered that the Kalari had been spacefaring for over 1,000 years, but they had never developed weapons of war. They were purely peaceful beings who believed that violence only created more violence. "How do you defend yourselves?" she asked one of their scientists. "We hide, we run, or we negotiate," came the reply. "We have never built a warship or trained soldiers. It is not our way." Jake found this both admirable and worrying. The galaxy seemed to be a dangerous place, and the Kalari's peaceful nature might not be enough to protect them from the Galactic Council. As months passed, the alliance between Earth and the Kalari grew stronger. Human and Kalari scientists worked together on new projects. Artists from both species created amazing works that combined human creativity with Kalari technology. Musicians composed songs that used instruments from both worlds. The Kalari even invited a small group of humans to visit their home world, Kilos Prime. Jake was among the chosen few. The journey took them through hyperspace, a trip that would have been impossible without Kalari technology. Kalos Prime was a world of incredible beauty. Cities of living crystal rose from green plains, and rivers of pure water flowed between them. The sky was a soft purple color, and 2 small moons hung in the heavens. Millions of Kalari lived there in harmony with nature and each other. "Your world is paradise," Jake told Vextal as they walked through one of the crystal cities. "We have worked for many centuries to make it so," Vextal replied. "We believe that a civilized species should create beauty, not destruction." Jake spent a week on Kalos Prime, learning about Kalari culture and history. He met artists, scientists, and philosophers who had spent their entire lives working to make their world better. He saw libraries that contained the knowledge of dozens of species, and gardens where alien plants from across the galaxy grew together in perfect harmony. But even in this peaceful place, there was worry about the Galactic Council. Kalari ships brought news from across the galaxy about worlds that had been conquered or destroyed. The Council's power seemed to be growing stronger every year. "They will find us eventually," an elder Kalari told Jake. "When they do, we will need friends who can fight. The Kalari cannot defend themselves with crystal songs and flower petals." Jake knew the elder was right. The alliance with the Kalari had brought humanity incredible gifts, but it had also made Earth a target. If the Galactic Council discovered the friendship between humans and Kalari, both species would be in terrible danger. As the USS Liberty prepared to return to Earth, Jake looked back at the beautiful world of Kilos Prime. He had a feeling that this might be the last time he would see it in peace. War was coming, whether they wanted it or not. Captain Steve Parker gripped the armrests of his command chair as the USS Guardian dropped out of hyperspace. Around him, the bridge crew worked frantically at their stations, trying to make sense of what their sensors were showing them. What they saw made his blood run cold. "Captain," whispered Lieutenant Sarah Kim, her voice barely audible. "Kalos Prime, it's gone." The beautiful world that had welcomed human visitors just months ago was now a burning wasteland. Where crystal cities had once sparkled in the purple sky, there were only smoking craters. The rivers that had flowed with pure water were now streams of molten rock. The 2 small moons that had hung peacefully in the heavens were shattered into glowing debris. "How many council ships?" Parker asked, though his voice sounded strange in his own ears. "Scanning now, sir," reported Communications Officer Mike Torres. "I'm reading... Jesus Christ. Over 200 vessels in high orbit. They're still bombarding the surface." Dr. Lisa Ford stood next to the captain's chair, tears streaming down her face as she watched the data scroll across the screens. She had lived among the Kalari for weeks, had learned their language, had walked through their beautiful cities. Now all of it was ash. "Are there any survivors?" she asked, her voice breaking. "I'm detecting some energy signatures in the northern continent," said Chief Science Officer Pete Wilson. "But they're fading fast. The Council ships are doing systematic sweeps, destroying anything that might be a shelter or bunker." Captain Parker felt sick. The USS Guardian was alone, carrying only a skeleton crew and basic weapons. They had been sent ahead of the main rescue fleet to establish communications with the Kalari Defense Forces. Instead, they had arrived to witness the final hours of an entire civilization. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Torres announced. "It's weak, but it's definitely Kalari." "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was broken and filled with static, but they could make out the words. It was Ambassador Vextal, the first Kalari to meet humanity. "Human friends, if anyone can hear this. Kalos Prime is lost. The Council found us 3 days ago. Their fleet arrived without warning. We had no defenses, no weapons, nothing that could stop them. They demanded our surrender, but when we refused to reveal the locations of our other colonies, they began the bombardment." Dr. Ford leaned toward the communicator. "Vexital, this is Lisa. Where are you? Can we reach you?" "Lisa? My friend, you should not have come. It is too dangerous. I am in the deep shelters beneath the old city, but our power is failing. The surface temperature is over 1,000 degrees. Nothing can survive up there now." "How many are with you?" she asked. "Perhaps 50. There may be other groups in other shelters, but we have lost contact. The Council ships are using some kind of energy weapon that penetrates deep into the ground. They are methodically destroying every place where life might hide." Captain Parker stepped forward. "Vextal, we're going to get you out. Can you reach the old spaceport?" There was a long pause. When Vextal spoke again, his voice was weaker. "The spaceport was destroyed in the first wave, but there are escape pods hidden in the mountain caves, about 50 kilometers from our position. Some of our people may have reached them." "We'll find them," Parker promised, but even as he said it, he knew how impossible it would be. The Guardian was one small ship against a Council fleet of 200. Lieutenant Kim looked up from her sensor station. "Captain, I'm detecting movement in the asteroid field near the 4th planet. Could be Kalari escape ships. Set course for the asteroids. Best speed." As the Guardian moved away from the dying planet, Dr. Ford watched the final destruction of Kalos Prime on the main screen. The Council ships were no longer just bombing military targets or population centers. They were melting the entire surface of the planet, making sure that nothing could ever live there again. "Why?" she whispered. "The Kalari never hurt anyone. They were peaceful traders and scholars. Why destroy them so completely?" "Because they were free," came a voice from behind them. Everyone turned to see Commander Dan Hayes, who had just arrived on the bridge. "I've been studying Council tactics since we got their ultimatum. They don't just want to conquer species. They want to erase any example of independence. The Kalari proved that a species could be advanced and peaceful without bowing to the Council. That made them more dangerous than any army." The Guardian reached the asteroid field and began scanning for survivors. They found them scattered among the rocks in dozens of small escape pods, each one barely capable of life support. One by one, the human ship brought them aboard. The rescued Kalari were a heartbreaking sight. These beings who had always been calm and peaceful were now traumatized refugees. Many were injured, all were in shock. They had watched their entire world die in 3 days. Dr. Ford worked with the ship's medical team to treat the survivors. As she helped them, she learned the full horror of what had happened. The Council hadn't just bombed Kelos Prime. They had tortured it. They had started with precision strikes on government buildings and cultural centers, then gradually expanded to civilian areas when the Kalari refused to surrender information about their colonies. They wanted us to watch, one survivor told her through tears. They wanted us to see our libraries burning, our art destroyed, our children dying. They thought we would break and tell them where our other worlds were hidden. Did anyone tell them? Dr. Ford asked gently. No. Even when the crystal gardens were melting, even when the song towers fell silent forever, no one betrayed our scattered people. We died free, but not all had died. The Guardian rescued nearly 3,000. Kalari from the asteroid field and from a few hidden ships that had escaped the initial attack. It was a tiny fraction of the millions who had lived on Kelos Prime, but it was enough to ensure that the Kalari species would survive. Ambassador Vextal was among the last to be rescued. His escape pod had been damaged and he was barely alive. When they brought him aboard, Dr. Ford stayed with him in the medical bay as the ship's doctors worked to save his life. I failed my people, he whispered when he finally regained consciousness. No, Dr. Ford said firmly. You saved them. Every Kalari who escaped, every colony that's still hidden, every person who will remember what Kelos Prime was like. That's your victory, not the Council's. Vextal's golden eyes looked up at her. And now, they will come for Earth. We have brought death to your world just as we brought it to ours. The Council brought death, Dr. Ford corrected. You brought us knowledge, friendship, and the chance to fight back. Without you, we never would have known what was coming. As the USS Guardian set course for Earth carrying its cargo of refugees and terrible news, Captain Parker composed his report. He tried to find words to describe what they had witnessed, but there were no words for the complete annihilation of a peaceful civilization. The Council had made their point clear. This was what happened to species who defied them. They had turned a world of living crystal and flowing rivers into a ball of molten rock. They had murdered millions of innocent beings whose only crime was wanting to remain free. But as Parker watched the Kalari survivors in the ship's common areas, he saw something that gave him hope. Despite everything they had lost, despite watching their world die, they were already talking about fighting back. They were sharing technical knowledge about Council weaknesses, planning ways to strike at their enemies. The massacre at Kelos Prime was meant to terrify humanity into submission. Instead, it had created something the Galactic Council had never faced before. An alliance between two species who had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. When the Guardian reached Earth and delivered its refugees and its news, the galaxy would learn that some lines should never be crossed. The Council had just crossed all of them. The images from Kelos Prime filled every screen on Earth within hours of the USS Guardian's return. President Tony Walsh had ordered the footage to be broadcast worldwide, despite protests from some advisors who feared it would cause panic. He believed that humanity needed to see the truth about what they were facing. In the United Nations General Assembly, representatives from every nation on Earth watched in horrified silence as the recordings played. The purple skies of Kelos Prime turning black with smoke, the crystal cities melting like ice under blowtorches, the graceful Kalari ships being hunted down and destroyed as they tried to flee their dying world. General Rick Stone stood at the podium, his weathered face grim as he addressed the assembly. Behind him, the final image from Kilos Prime showed the planet's surface glowing red-hot, all life extinguished forever. "Ladies and gentlemen," Stone began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast hall, "what you have just witnessed is genocide, the complete and systematic murder of an entire civilization. The Kalari were guilty of nothing except refusing to surrender their freedom to the Galactic Council." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the room. "The Council has given us the same ultimatum they gave the Kalari: submit or die. They believe that we will choose submission because we are afraid. They believe that we will hand over our allies to save ourselves." The general's voice grew stronger. "They are wrong. Humanity has faced extinction before and survived. We have stood against tyrants and won. We will not bow to these aliens, no matter how many ships they bring against us." In the audience, Dr. Kate Miller sat with the group of scientists who had been working around the clock to adapt Kalari technology. She had not slept in 3 days, but her mind was racing with possibilities. The energy readings from the Council bombardment had revealed weaknesses in their weapon systems that could be exploited. Ambassador Vex Tal, still recovering from his injuries, spoke next. The Kalari leader's words were translated and broadcast to every corner of Earth. "My friends of humanity," he said, his voice weak but determined. "The Council believes that by destroying my world they have broken our spirit. But they have only awakened something that has slept too long in the galaxy: the will to resist. For 1,000 years, species have submitted to the Council rather than fight. Today, that ends." The Kalari survivors had been working with human engineers, sharing everything they knew about Council technology and tactics. The information was both terrifying and encouraging. The Council's strength came from their vast numbers and superior firepower, but they had not fought a real war in centuries. Most species surrendered after seeing demonstrations of Council power. Commander Dan Hayes took the stage next, outlining Earth's crash military program. "We are converting every shipyard on Earth and in the colonies to warship production. The Luna facilities are working triple shifts to build new weapon systems. Mars base is training our first generation of Space Marines." The most ambitious part of the plan was being led by engineer Matt Clark, who had been studying Kalari ship-growing technology. Instead of building metal warships that took months to construct, Earth was developing biomechanical vessels that could be grown in weeks. "The first prototype will be ready for testing in 10 days, Clark reported to the assembly. "If successful, we can have a fleet of 50 ships ready within 2 months. But it was Dr. Miller who delivered the most shocking news. "Working with Kalari scientists, we have developed a new type of weapon. We call it a quantum torpedo. It uses phase shift technology to pass through energy shields and detonate inside enemy ships." She activated a holographic display showing test results. "A single quantum torpedo can destroy a Council cruiser. We are currently building as many as our facilities can produce." The assembly erupted in amazed murmurs. For the first time since learning about the Council fleet, there was hope in the room. President Walsh returned to the podium for the final address. The weight of his decision was visible on his face, but his voice was steady and strong. "The Galactic Council has demanded that we surrender our allies and submit to their rule. They have shown us what happens to species who refuse: complete annihilation. They expect us to choose survival over honor, safety over freedom." He looked out over the assembly, then directly into the cameras that would carry his words to every human in the solar system. "But they have misunderstood what it means to be human. We are the species that sailed across unknown oceans, that climbed the highest mountains that reached for the stars even when we didn't know what we would find there. We are the people who have always chosen the difficult path when it was the right path. His voice rose, filling the great hall with determination. Therefore, I stand before you today to announce that the United Earth Government formally declares war on the Galactic Council. We will not surrender our allies. We will not submit to tyranny. We will fight for our freedom and for the freedom of every species in the galaxy who has been oppressed by Council rule. The hall exploded in applause, but the president wasn't finished. This will not be easy. We are one world against thousands. We are a young species facing an empire that has ruled the galaxy for millennia. Many of us will not live to see victory, but we will fight, because that is who we are. We will fight because the Kalari trusted us. We will fight because freedom is worth any price. Within hours of the declaration, the entire planet mobilized for war. Factories that had been producing consumer goods were converted to weapons production. Universities became research centers for military technology. Every person with engineering or scientific training was recruited for the war effort. Sergeant Lucy Evans led the first training program for enhanced soldiers. Using Kalari biotechnology, human volunteers were given improved reflexes, better eyesight, and increased strength. The process was dangerous. Not everyone survived the enhancement, but there was no shortage of volunteers. We're not trying to make super soldiers, Evans explained to her trainees. We're trying to give you the tools to fight aliens who are naturally stronger and faster than humans. The real weapons are your minds and your courage. Pilot Anna Turner tested the first human fighters equipped with Kalari energy systems. The new ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything Earth had built before. But they required completely new flying techniques. It's like learning to fly all over again, she reported after her first test flight. But these ships can do things that will surprise the hell out of the Council. Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Pete Davis worked with Kalari technicians to hack into Council communication networks. The information they gathered was both useful and disturbing. The Council was mobilizing their core fleets for what they called the final cleansing of the Sol system. They're not planning to conquer Earth, Davis reported to the War Council. They're planning to destroy it completely, just like they did to Kalos Prime. They want to make an example that will terrify other species into absolute obedience. But the intelligence also revealed something encouraging. The massacre at Kalos Prime had shocked many species throughout the galaxy. Some were secretly questioning Council rule for the first time in centuries. If Earth could win a victory against the Council, it might inspire other species to rebel. As Earth prepared for war, the Kalari survivors worked tirelessly to help their human allies. They shared not just technology, but tactical knowledge gained from observing Council forces for centuries. They helped design new ship configurations that could exploit weaknesses in Council battle formations. The Council fights like they have always fought, Vextal explained to the human commanders. They rely on overwhelming force and traditional tactics. They have never faced an enemy that adapts and improves during battle. This is humanity's greatest advantage. The war declaration had been broadcast not just on Earth, but throughout the galaxy using Kalari communication networks. The message was clear. Humanity would not bow to the Council, no matter the cost. In response, the Council fleet began moving toward Earth. Intelligence reports indicated that over 1,000 ships were converging on the Sol system. It would be the largest military operation in galactic history. But Earth was no longer the helpless world that had received the Council's ultimatum. In the weeks since the massacre at Kalos Prime, humanity had transformed itself into something new. a species united by righteous anger and determination to fight for their freedom and the memory of their destroyed allies. Dr. Kate Miller stared at the test results on her screen, hardly believing what she was seeing. The quantum torpedo prototype had not just penetrated the Council Shield simulation, it had completely ignored it, passing through the energy barrier, as if it didn't exist before detonating with devastating force. "Run the test again," she told her assistant, Dr. Brian Park. "I want to be absolutely certain." This was the third successful test in a row. The weapon that had seemed impossible just weeks ago was now reality. By combining human nuclear technology with Kalari phase shift science, they had created something that could punch through any known defense. In the laboratory next door, engineer Matt Clark was watching his own miracle unfold. The first biomechanical warship was taking shape in a massive growth tank, its living hull forming from a mixture of Kalari crystal technology and human engineering. Unlike traditional ships that took months to build in space docks, this vessel was growing itself in just 3 weeks. "It's like watching evolution in fast forward," Clark told the team of engineers gathered around the tank. "The ship is literally learning how to be a better weapon as it grows." The vessel, which they had named the USS Vengeance, was unlike anything ever seen. Its hull looked organic, with smooth curves and a surface that seemed to shift and flow. But beneath the living exterior was a weapon system more powerful than anything Earth had ever built. Captain Ryan Bell had been chosen to command the Vengeance when it was completed. He spent his days studying the ship's design and training with Kalari advisors who understood the biomechanical technology. "The ship will respond to your thoughts once the neural interface is active," explained Kalari engineer Zethmar. "You will not just command it, you will become part of it, human and ship working as one." The idea was both exciting and terrifying. No human had ever piloted a living ship before, but the early simulations showed incredible results. The biomechanical vessels could repair themselves, adapt to new threats, and fight with an intelligence that no traditional warship could match. Meanwhile, pilot Anna Turner was pushing the limits of human engineering in a different way. The new fighter craft that incorporated Kalari energy systems were faster and more agile than anything in Earth's previous arsenal, but they required pilots with enhanced reflexes to handle them safely. "The acceleration forces would kill a normal human," she explained to Admiral Carter during a demonstration flight. "But with the Kalari bio-enhancements, we can pull maneuvers that will seem impossible to Council pilots." The enhancement process had been refined since the early experiments. Volunteers were given biological modifications that improved their reaction times, increased their G-force tolerance, and enhanced their spatial awareness. The process was still dangerous, but the survival rate had improved to over 90%. Dr. Lisa Ford worked with the enhanced pilots, studying how the human nervous system adapted to the alien technology. "We're not just creating better pilots," she reported to the Research Council. "We're creating a new type of human, one designed for space warfare." But it wasn't just individual improvements that were changing humanity's capabilities. The entire industrial base of Earth and its colonies had been transformed for war production. Factories that once made consumer electronics now produced targeting computers. Shipyards that built cargo vessels were growing warships. The Luna base had become the center of weapons research. In the low-gravity environment, scientists could test technologies that would be impossible on Earth. Dr. Miller's team had moved their quantum torpedo production to Luna, where they could build the weapons faster and safer. "We're producing 10 torpedoes per day now," she reported during the weekly progress meeting. "At this rate, we'll have 500 ready when the Council fleet arrives." Intelligence Officer Pete Davis had been working with Kalari technicians to penetrate Council communication networks. The information they gathered was crucial for understanding enemy capabilities and planning Earth's defense. "The Council is sending their core battle fleet," Davis reported to the War Council. "Over 1,200 ships, including their newest dreadnoughts. But we've identified a weakness in their command structure. The Council relied on a centralized command system where orders flowed from flagship commanders to individual ships. If the command ships could be destroyed, the entire fleet would lose coordination. They've used the same tactics for centuries," added Vextall, who had recovered enough to join the planning sessions. "Every species they've conquered fought in the traditional way, fleet against fleet in open space. They have no experience against human-style warfare." The Kalari survivors had become invaluable advisors, sharing not just technology but strategic knowledge gained from observing Council forces throughout the galaxy. They helped identify which Council species were most vulnerable to specific types of attack. "The Zephyrian command ships have excellent armor but poor mobility," explained Kalari military analyst Kexrin. "The Thorian cruisers are fast but have weak shield generators. If you can target their specific weaknesses, you can defeat ships much larger than your own." This information was being incorporated into the training programs for Earth's new fleet commanders. Instead of trying to match the Council's massive ships with equally large vessels, Earth was building smaller, faster ships that could exploit enemy weaknesses. The biomechanical ships being grown in Clark's facilities were perfect for this strategy. Each vessel was designed for a specific role, some for stealth attacks, others for hit-and-run raids, still others for defensive operations. Unlike Council ships that were built for general combat, Earth's vessels were specialized weapons. Sergeant Lucy Evans had expanded her enhanced soldier program beyond just pilots. Teams of enhanced Marines were being trained for boarding actions against Council ships. Using Kalari biotechnology, these soldiers could survive in space without bulky suits and fight in zero-gravity environments. "We're not trying to match their strength," Evans explained to her trainees. "We're using our advantages: adaptability, creativity, and the element of surprise. The Council has never faced soldiers like you. The enhanced Marines carried weapons that combined human firearms with Kalari energy technology. Their rifles could switch between traditional bullets and energy blasts depending on the target. Their armor was grown from living crystal that could adapt to different threats. But perhaps the most revolutionary development was taking place in the asteroid belt, where human miners were working with Kalari engineers to build a new type of space station. These facilities looked like ordinary asteroids from the outside, but contained hidden weapon systems and manufacturing centers. "The Council will scan for traditional military installations," explained Chief Engineer Ron Barnes. "They won't expect asteroid mining stations to open fire on them." The hidden bases were connected by a network of quantum communication relays that allowed instant coordination across the solar system. Even if the Council destroyed Earth's main command centers, the asteroid bases could continue the fight independently. As the weeks passed, Earth's capabilities grew exponentially. The combination of human innovation and Kalari technology was producing results that neither species could have achieved alone. Weapons that had been theoretical concepts were becoming reality. Ship designs that had seemed impossible were taking shape in the growth tanks. But it wasn't just the technology that was revolutionary. It was the way humans and Kalari were working together. The two species had different strengths and different ways of thinking, but together they were creating solutions that surprised even their creators. "The humans think in ways we never could," Vextal observed during one planning session. They see possibilities where we see only problems. They find advantages in situations we would consider hopeless. And the Kalari show us possibilities we never imagined, replied Dr. Miller. Their technology opens doors we didn't even know existed. Together, we're becoming something neither of us could be alone. The USS Vengeance completed its growth cycle ahead of schedule. When Captain Bell first connected to the ship's neural interface, the sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced. He could feel the ship's systems as if they were part of his own body, could sense threats and opportunities through the vessel's advanced sensors. "It's incredible," he reported, after his first test flight. "The ship doesn't just respond to my commands. It anticipates them. We're not just pilot and vessel anymore. We're a new kind of warrior." Similar biomechanical ships were completing their growth cycles every few days. Each one was slightly different, as the living technology adapted and evolved. Soon, Earth would have a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The technology revolution had transformed not just Earth's military capabilities, but humanity itself. The species that had once been confined to a single world was becoming something new, a spacefaring civilization that combined the best of human and alien science. When the Council fleet arrived, they would face an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, studying the tactical display that showed the Outer Rim Station designated Council Base Theta 7. Intelligence reports indicated it was a supply depot and communication relay, defended by only a small garrison. It would be Earth's first real test against Council forces. "All ships report ready, Admiral," announced Captain Jake Morrison from his position at the tactical station. The human fleet consisted of 12 vessels, a mix of converted exploration ships and 3 of the new biomechanical warships, including the USS Vengeance under Captain Ryan Bell's command. "Remember, people," Carter addressed the fleet through the communication system, "this isn't about winning a glorious victory. This is about learning how the Council fights and proving that they can be beaten. Hit hard, gather data, and get out alive." The plan was deceptively simple. Lieutenant Sam Brooks, piloting one of the new stealth ships, would disable the station's communication array to prevent them from calling for help. Then the main fleet would attack from multiple directions, testing different weapons and tactics against Council defenses. "Stealth ship. Aurora is in position," reported Brooks over the comm. "I can see the station clearly. It's bigger than our intelligence suggested. Looks like it can hold at least 50 ships." Dr. Lisa Ford, monitoring the battle from Earth, felt her stomach tighten. If the station was larger than expected, it might be better defended too, but it was too late to call off the attack now. "Council ships are exactly where the Kalari said they would be," continued Brooks. 2 cruisers docked at the main platform, 4 patrol ships on outer perimeter. The communication array is on the north pole of the station, lightly defended. Admiral Carter made his decision. "Aurora, you are cleared for your run. All other ships, prepare for Phase 2 on my mark." Sam Brooks guided his stealth ship toward the station, using Kalari cloaking technology that bent light around the vessel. The Council sensors, designed to detect traditional ships, couldn't see him coming. As he approached the communication array, he prepared the new electromagnetic pulse weapon that Dr. Miller's team had developed, firing EMP in 3, 2, 1, fired. The pulse weapon struck the communication array and spread through the station's electronic systems like a virus. Lights flickered and went out across the facility. The Council ships that had been patrolling in neat formations suddenly lost coordination, as their navigation systems failed. Direct hit, Brooks reported. Communications are down and their ships are flying blind. All ships, attack, Carter ordered. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at 3 different points around the station. The Council forces, commanded by Sub-Admiral Morkes, were caught completely off guard. They had been expecting to face traditional warships using conventional tactics. Instead, they found themselves under attack by ships that moved unlike anything they had seen before. The USS Vengeance, with Captain Bell connected to its neural interface, moved through space like a living creature. It dodged energy blasts that should have hit it, twisted around return fire with impossible grace, and struck back with weapons that seemed to predict where the enemy ships would be. "This is incredible," Bell reported, his voice filled with amazement. "The ship is fighting almost by itself. I can feel what the enemy is going to do before they do it." The biomechanical vessel targeted one of the Council cruisers with quantum torpedoes. The alien ship's captain, a Zephyrian named Korthak, watched, in disbelief as the human weapons passed through his shields like they weren't there. "Impossible!" he roared. "Our shields are at full power!" But the quantum torpedoes struck the cruiser's hull and detonated inside the ship. Secondary explosions rippled through the vessel as its power systems overloaded. Within minutes, the mighty Council cruiser was a drifting hulk. The other human ships pressed their attack using tactics that confused and frustrated the Council forces. Instead of engaging in the traditional ship-to-ship duels that the Council expected, the human vessels worked as coordinated teams. They shared targeting data instantly, concentrated fire on single enemies, and used the station's structure as cover. Captain Sarah Lopez, commanding the converted exploration vessel USS Explorer, led her ship in a daring run between the station's docking arms. Council ships trying to pursue her crashed into the station's superstructure or collided with each other in the confusion. "These humans fight like pirates," complained Thorian Captain Zekmal as his ship struggled to target the fast-moving Earth vessels. "They have no honor, no tradition." But the human tactics were devastatingly effective. Within 30 minutes, 4 Council ships had been destroyed, and 2 more were heavily damaged. The remaining vessels attempted to retreat, but found their escape routes blocked by human ships that had positioned themselves perfectly. Dr. Ford watched the battle from Earth's command center, analyzing every piece of data that came through. The Council ships were powerful and well-armed, but they fought with rigid tactics that made them predictable. Their captains seemed unable to adapt when faced with unexpected situations. "The Council commanders are making the same mistakes over and over," she reported to General Stone. "They keep trying to use traditional formations against ships that won't fight traditionally." Sub-Admiral Morkes, realizing that his forces were being systematically destroyed, made a desperate decision. He ordered his flagship to ram the USS Vengeance, hoping to take the strange biomechanical ship with him. But Captain Bell and his living ship sensed the attack coming. The Vengeance twisted away from the charging Council vessel at the last second, then fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes into the flagship's engines. The Council ship, unable to change course, crashed into the station's central hub and exploded. "That's their command ship down," reported Captain Morrison from the Liberty. "Remaining Council forces are in full retreat." "Let them go," Admiral Carter ordered. "We've accomplished our mission." As the surviving Council ships fled into hyperspace, the human fleet regrouped around the captured station. Teams of enhanced Marines, led by Sergeant Lucy Evans, boarded the facility to search for intelligence and secure any useful technology. "The station's databases are intact," Evans reported. "Looks like we've got detailed information about Council fleet movements and supply lines." Pete Davis, monitoring the intelligence gathering from his ship, was amazed by what they were finding. "Admiral, this is better than we hoped. The station was a major communication hub. We've got access to Council military codes and battle plans." But the most important discovery came from the Kalari analysts studying the battle data. The Council forces had fought exactly as predicted, using ancient tactics and rigid formations. More importantly, they had seemed genuinely shocked by human weapons and tactics. "They have never faced anything like this," Vextal explained during the post-battle briefing. "For centuries, they have conquered species that fought like they do. The humans are something completely new to them. The victory at Council Base Theta-7 was more than just a military success. It was proof that the Council could be beaten, that their ships could be destroyed, that their supposedly invincible forces were vulnerable to new tactics and technologies." News of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy via the Kalari communication networks. Species that had been oppressed by the Council for generations learned that a young race called humanity had attacked a Council installation and won. For the first time in centuries, there was hope that the Council's tyranny might be challenged. But the victory came with a price. Intelligence gathered from the station revealed that the Council was indeed mobilizing their core fleets for an assault on Earth. Over 1,500 ships were converging on the Sol system, including dreadnoughts that could destroy entire planets. "They're not just planning to conquer us," Admiral Carter told the War Council. "They're planning to make an example of us. After what we did today, they want to show the galaxy what happens to species who dare to fight back." Captain Bell, still connected to the USS Vengeance through its neural interface, felt the ship's response to the news. The biomechanical vessel was eager for another fight, its living systems already adapting and improving based on the lessons learned in battle. "Let them come," he said quietly. "We've shown that they can bleed. Now, we'll show the galaxy that they can die." The first strike had been a complete success, but it was only the beginning. The real war was about to start, and Earth would need every advantage they could get to survive what was coming. The Council had been embarrassed and enraged by their defeat. Their response would be swift and merciless. But humanity had proven something important to themselves and to the galaxy. The Galactic Council was not invincible. They could be surprised, outfought, and defeated. The question now was whether Earth could do it again on a much larger scale, when the full might of the Council came calling. Supreme Chancellor Korthvek of the Galactic Council stood before the massive holographic display showing the Sol system, his reptilian features twisted with rage. The destruction of Base Theta-7 had been a humiliation that echoed throughout Council space, and he would not allow these primitive humans to make a mockery of his empire. "How many ships do we have in the assault fleet?" he demanded from Fleet Admiral Mortek, who had replaced the commander killed at the human outpost. 1,500 vessels, Supreme Chancellor," Mortek replied, his voice carefully controlled. "Every ship from the core fleets, plus reinforcements from the outer territories. It is the largest military operation in Council history." Korthvek studied the tactical projections. The human homeworld was defended by orbital platforms and a small fleet of primitive ships, plus whatever strange technology they had used to defeat his forces at Theta-7. It should be an easy victory, but he had learned not to underestimate these humans. "I want the planet's surface turned to glass," he commanded. "No human settlement will survive. No human ship will escape. We will make such an example of them that no species will ever again dare to defy the Council." On Earth, General Rick Stone watched the approaching Council fleet through the deep space monitoring stations. The enemy ships had dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system and were advancing in perfect formation toward the inner planets. Estimated time to Earth orbit? He asked the tactical staff. 6 hours at current speed, replied Colonel Amy Brooks. They're not trying to hide their approach. This is meant to be a demonstration of overwhelming force. The human defenders were spread throughout the solar system. Orbital defense platforms surrounded Earth and Luna, bristling with the new quantum bow torpedo launchers. The asteroid belt had been turned into a network of hidden weapon stations. Mars Base served as the fallback command center if Earth fell. Captain Julie Fox commanded the Luna defense platforms from her position on the Moon's surface. Her installations controlled the most powerful weapons Earth had ever built: quantum torpedo arrays that could fire dozens of warheads simultaneously. All lunar platforms report ready, she announced to the fleet command. We have clear targeting solutions on the approaching Council formation. Admiral Carter, commanding the main defense fleet from the USS Liberty, studied the enemy formation. The Council ships advanced in the traditional pattern they had used for centuries: heavy dreadnoughts in the center, cruisers on the flanks, and smaller ships screening the advance. They're fighting the same way they always have, he observed to Captain Morrison. Even after Theta 7, they haven't learned. But the size of the Council fleet was staggering. Earth's 48 warships, including 12 biomechanical vessels, would be facing odds of more than 30 to 1. Even with superior tactics and technology, the numbers were overwhelming. Colonel Brooks coordinated the ground defenses as Council landing craft began their descent toward major population centers. Enhanced Marines under Sergeant Lucy Evans were positioned at key points around the globe, ready to repel invasion forces. Enemy dropships incoming over North America and Europe, Brooks reported. Estimated 10,000 troops per wave. The first phase of the battle began when the Council fleet reached the orbit of Mars. Hidden weapons platforms that looked like ordinary asteroids suddenly came alive, firing quantum torpedoes into the enemy formation. Direct hits on 3 enemy cruisers, reported Chief Engineer Ron Barnes from his concealed command post in the asteroid belt. They had no idea we were here. The Council formation wavered as ships that had been advancing confidently suddenly found themselves under attack from what they thought was empty space. Admiral Mortek screamed orders at his subordinates, trying to identify the source of the unexpected assault. Scan those asteroids. Find their hidden bases. But the human installations were too well concealed. By the time the Council's ships identified one hidden platform, it had already relocated to a different asteroid. The mobile defense stations played hit-and-run tactics that frustrated the rigid Council battle doctrine. As the enemy fleet approached Earth's orbit, the real battle began. Captain Ryan Bell led the biomechanical ships in a coordinated attack on the Council's right flank, using their living hulls and neural interfaces to execute maneuvers that seemed impossible. The USS Vengeance twisted through space like a snake, dodging massive energy blasts while returning fire with quantum torpedoes. The ship's living hull rippled and flowed, dispersing energy hits that would have destroyed conventional vessels. "These ships are alive!" reported a shocked Thorian captain, as his targeting computers failed to lock onto the biomechanical vessels. "They move like living creatures!" Supreme Chancellor Korthvek watched the battle from his flagship, growing increasingly frustrated as his overwhelming advantage failed to produce the quick victory he had expected. The human ships were outnumbered, but they fought with a coordination and creativity that his forces couldn't match. "How are so few ships holding against our entire fleet?" he demanded. "They're using tactics we've never encountered," Admiral Mortek replied. "Their ships work together in ways that our battle computers cannot predict." Captain Sarah Lopez demonstrated these tactics perfectly as she led a squadron of converted Earth ships in a daring attack on a Council dreadnought. Instead of trying to match the massive ship's firepower, her vessels darted around it like insects, striking weak points and retreating before the enemy could respond. "Target their engine ports," she ordered her squadron. "Don't try to destroy it, just cripple it and move on to the next target." The strategy was working. Earth's ships were disabling enemy vessels faster than they were being destroyed. But the human forces were taking losses too. The USS Explorer exploded under concentrated fire from 3 Council cruisers. The USS Guardian was crippled when a Zephyrian dreadnought caught it in a crossfire. On Luna, Captain Fox waited until the Council fleet was committed to their attack on Earth before revealing her hidden weapons. The quantum torpedo arrays that had been disguised as mining equipment suddenly opened fire, sending hundreds of phase-shift warheads into the enemy formation. "Firing full spread at the Council command ships," she announced. "All lunar platforms, concentrate fire on their flagships." The surprise attack from the moon's surface caught the Council fleet completely off guard. Quantum torpedoes passed through their shields and detonated inside ship hulls, causing massive internal explosions. 3 Council dreadnoughts were destroyed in the first volley. But the Council's numerical advantage was beginning to tell. Despite their tactical victories, the human defenders were being slowly overwhelmed. Too many enemy ships were getting through the outer defenses and approaching Earth itself. Colonel Brooks coordinated the planetary defense as Council landing craft began their assault. The enhanced Marines fought with incredible skill and determination, but they were vastly outnumbered by the alien invasion forces. "Enemy forces have landed in 12 major cities," she reported to General Stone. "Our troops are holding, but they're requesting immediate support." Sergeant Evans led her enhanced Marines in the defense of New York City, using their biomechanical enhancements to fight Council troops in the urban environment. The alien soldiers were larger and stronger than humans, but they had never faced enemies who could adapt and improvise like the enhanced Marines. "Use the buildings," she ordered her troops. "Make them come to us on our terms." The street fighting was brutal, but the human defenders had advantages that the Council forces hadn't expected. The enhanced Marines could survive in environments that would kill normal soldiers, and their weapons could switch between different types of ammunition depending on the target. In space, the battle raged around Earth's orbital platforms. Admiral Carter realized that the traditional defensive strategy wasn't working. The Council fleet was too large and would eventually break through by sheer numbers. "All ships, execute Plan Omega," he ordered. Plan Omega was the most desperate strategy in Earth's playbook. Instead of trying to defend fixed positions, the entire human fleet would coordinate a direct assault on the Council flagship, hoping to decapitate the enemy command structure. Captain Bell felt the USS Vengeance respond to the new orders, the biomechanical ship eager for the challenge. Along with every other human vessel still capable of fighting, the Vengeance charged directly toward Supreme Chancellor Korthvek's massive command ship. "They're all coming straight at us," Admiral Mortek reported in disbelief. "Every human ship in the system is targeting our flagship." The coordinated human assault was unlike anything the Council had ever faced. 43 ships, all that remained of Earth's fleet, concentrated their fire on a single target. Quantum torpedoes, energy weapons, and even kinetic projectiles converged on the Council flagship. But Korthvek's ship was the most powerful vessel ever built, protected by multiple shield layers and armor that could withstand planet-killing weapons. The human attack damaged it severely, but couldn't destroy it. "Kill them all," the Supreme Chancellor roared. "I want every human ship reduced to atoms." The Council fleet turned its full attention to the attacking Earth vessels. One by one, the human ships were overwhelmed and destroyed. The USS Vengeance hung motionless in space, its biomechanical hull scarred from the desperate battle around Earth. Captain Ryan Bell, still connected to the ship through its neural interface, felt every damaged system as if it were a wound in his own body. Around him, the wreckage of both human and Council ships drifted in the darkness. "Status report," he requested weakly. "We're one of 8 human ships still operational," came the reply from Lieutenant Commander Kate Walsh. "The Council fleet has pulled back to regroup, but they'll be back to finish us off." Through the quantum communication network, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The human stand at Earth had inspired something unprecedented: simultaneous rebellions on dozens of Council worlds. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were fighting for their freedom. Dr. Kate Miller's voice crackled through the damaged communication system from her hidden laboratory on Luna. "Ryan, we've been analyzing the Council command structure. Their entire empire depends on centralized control from the capital world of Zephyr Prime. If we could strike there, how?" Bell asked. "We barely have enough ships left to defend Earth, let alone launch an attack on their homeworld." "That's exactly why it might work," came the voice of Admiral Carter from the crippled USS Liberty. "They'll never expect us to attack their capital when we're on the verge of defeat." The plan that emerged over the next few hours was desperate beyond reason. A small strike force would use the chaos of the galactic rebellions to penetrate Council space and attack Zephyr Prime directly. Meanwhile, Pete Davis would broadcast the footage from Kilos Prime throughout the galaxy, showing every species what the Council was truly capable of. "The images of Kilos Prime burning will break the Council's hold over their subjects," explained Vextall from his medical bay. "Many species serve them out of fear, not loyalty. When they see the truth about the genocide, they will turn against their oppressors." Captain Jake Morrison volunteered to lead the strike force, even though the USS Liberty was barely spaceworthy. "We have 8 ships against the entire Council fleet. Those are terrible odds." "Actually," said Dr. Miller, "those might be the best odds we've ever had. The Council is spread across the galaxy trying to suppress rebellions. Zephyr Prime has never been attacked. Their defenses will be minimal." The strike force consisted of the USS Liberty, the USS Vengeance, and 6 other surviving human vessels. It was a pathetic force compared to the mighty fleets that had fought at Earth, but it carried humanity's last hope. As the ships prepared to depart, Captain Julie Fox transmitted from the lunar defense platforms. "We're tracking Council reinforcements, heading for Earth. You have maybe 6 hours before they arrive in overwhelming numbers." "Then we better make this count," Morrison replied. The journey to Zephyr Prime took the strike force through the heart of Council space, but the galaxy was in chaos. Rebel fleets were engaging Council forces throughout the star systems. The humans passed through 3 major battles without being challenged, their small force lost in the confusion of galactic civil war. Intelligence Officer Davis worked frantically to prepare the broadcast that would accompany their attack. The footage from Kilos Prime had been enhanced and compiled into a devastating presentation that showed the complete destruction of an innocent civilization. "Every communication relay in Council space will carry this signal," he reported. "When We attacked Zephyr Prime. The galaxy will see what the Council really is. Supreme Chancellor Korthvek paced the command center of his capital world, receiving reports of rebellions from across his empire. The human attack on Earth had been contained, but at a cost he hadn't anticipated. Half the galaxy was now in open revolt. How could this happen? He demanded from his advisors. We are the Council. We have ruled for 1,000 years. The humans inspired them, replied his intelligence chief. These rebellions began immediately after the first broadcasts from the Sol system. Every species that has ever resented our rule is now fighting. Then we will crush them all, Korthvek declared. Mobilize every ship, destroy every rebel world. I want the galaxy to remember why they fear us. But even as he spoke, the human strike force was approaching the outer defenses of Zephyr Prime. The Council homeworld was protected by massive orbital stations and powerful energy shields, but most of the defensive fleet had been sent to deal with rebellions elsewhere. 8 defense platforms and maybe 20 ships, reported the sensor operator aboard the Liberty. After what we've been through, this almost seems easy. Captain Bell felt the vengeance respond to his anticipation. The biomechanical ship had been healing itself during the journey, growing new armor and regenerating damaged weapon systems. It was eager for the final battle. Remember the plan, Morrison announced to the strike force. We target the planetary shield generators while Pete broadcasts the Kilos Prime footage. Once the shields are down, we transmit directly to the planet's surface. The attack began with the Vengeance leading a direct assault on the shield generators. The living ship danced between energy blasts from the defense platforms, its movements too unpredictable for the automated targeting systems to track effectively. Quantum torpedoes from the human fleet penetrated the shield generator's defenses, causing massive explosions that rippled across Zephyr Prime's energy barrier. Within minutes, gaps appeared in the protective field. Broadcasting now, Davis announced, as his signal penetrated the planet's communication networks. Across Zephyr Prime, billions of Council citizens watched in horror as the images from Kilos Prime filled their screens. The beautiful crystal cities, burning. The gentle Kalari people dying in the flames. The systematic destruction of an entire world for the crime of wanting to remain free. The reaction was immediate and devastating. Zephyrian civilians who had believed their government's propaganda about protecting the galaxy from dangerous rebels suddenly saw the truth. Their leaders were not heroes maintaining peace. They were genocidal tyrants who destroyed entire civilizations. Sir, a communications officer reported to Chancellor Korthvek, we're receiving reports of civilian unrest in major cities. The population is demanding explanations about Kilos Prime. Lock down all communications, Korthvek ordered. Deploy security forces to suppress any demonstrations. But it was too late. The footage from Kilos Prime was spreading throughout Council space, carried by rebel communication networks and hidden transmitters. Species after species learned the truth about their supposed protectors. On Zephyr Prime itself, massive demonstrations erupted in the capital cities. Zephyrian civilians, who had never questioned Council authority, were calling for the government's removal. Security forces found themselves facing their own people instead of foreign enemies. In space, the human strike force pressed their attack against the increasingly desperate orbital defenses. Captain Bell guided the Vengeance through a devastating run against the command station, his biomechanical ship shrugging off energy blasts that would have destroyed conventional vessels. Target acquired, he announced as quantum torpedoes locked onto the station's central core. Firing full spread. The Command Station exploded in a ball of superheated plasma, taking the orbital defense network's coordination with it. The remaining platforms fought independently, but without central control, they were quickly overwhelmed by the coordinated human assault. Chancellor Korthvek watched his defenses crumble from his bunker deep beneath the capital city. Around him, his advisors were receiving reports of rebellions, civilian uprisings, and military defections throughout the Empire. Supreme Chancellor, his military aide, reported, "The Thorian Third Fleet has declared independence. The Valdorian worlds have expelled our governors. The Outer Rim territories are in open revolt." "This is impossible," Korthvek raged. "One primitive species cannot destroy an empire that has lasted a millennium." But that was exactly what was happening. The human attack on Zephyr Prime was the signal that oppressed species throughout the galaxy had been waiting for. If humans could strike at the heart of Council power, then the Council was not invincible. Captain Morrison led the final phase of the attack, directing his ships to broadcast directly to the planet's surface. The signal carried not just the footage from Kalos Prime, but a message from humanity to every species in the galaxy. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Fleet." His voice echoed across Zephyr Prime and throughout Council space. "The Galactic Council told you they were bringing peace and order to the galaxy. This is what their peace looks like." The images of Kalos Prime's destruction played once again, but this time they were accompanied by Morrison's narration explaining what had really happened. The Kalari had committed no crime except refusing to surrender their freedom. They had been peaceful traders and scholars who harmed no one. "The Council wants you to believe that they are protecting you from dangerous rebels," Morrison continued. "But the only thing they are protecting is their own power. Today, that power ends." As if responding to his words, reports came flooding in from across the galaxy. The Valdorian Republic declared independence. The Thorian Confederation withdrew from the Council. The Arcturus Alliance expelled Council forces from their space. One by one, the species that had been held together by fear and propaganda were breaking free. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 Y